Happy Black History Month and happy Valentine's. Hi, my name is Florence and welcome back to the One More Book podcast channel. So I'm filming this video on Valentine's Day, which is the 14th of February. As you can see, I'm all decked out in red. And if you celebrate this day, I hope that you felt loved. It doesn't really matter, even if you don't. I hope that you felt love and I'm sending you lots of love. I'm not so sure when this will be posted, but just in case. It might be posted today, tomorrow, I'm not so sure, but it doesn't matter. Happy belated Valentine's Day. And of course, we're in February. We are almost at the middle and we are still celebrating Black History Month. I was inspired to do this video by a YouTuber that I follow. Her channel is called Scotty Sherry Reads. And she did a tag about the Black History book tag. I think that's the title of the video, or books that she could recommend people to read during Black History Month. And I thought it was a really nice idea, so I decided to give it a go. So hope you will enjoy it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know in the comment section if you have read any of these books. What are you reading for Black History Month? Or do you even celebrate Black History Month? So without further ado, let's just start. I have the questions and answers written down in my trusted notebook, so I'll keep on looking at it. So the first question is, what's a book that everyone should read during Black History Month? I have two books that I would recommend. I would like to bring to attention the fact that Black History Month does not just mean celebrating the history of African Americans. It also means celebrating Black people in the diaspora who are all over the world. So of course, there's Black history in the Caribbean. There is Black history even in Asia. There's Black history of course, in the motherland, and there's Black history in Europe. So I think it's a very international thing to celebrate. So my recommendations are also a bit outside of the normal books that you will see floating around. So the first book that I would recommend is How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney. And I have the German copy. I live in Germany. And this was newly translated last year, but one, because it had a translation back in the 1990s that wasn't correct. So they retranslated it. And it has a foreword by Pelunda Adewale, who is Nigerian. Bafta Sabo and Renee Ansbrook, they both live in Germany. So they did the foreword for this. And I was lucky to attend a reading where the two of the authors who wrote the foreword were also there. So it's a signed copy. So Walter Rodney in this amazing book just reiterates the fact that Africa was exploited. Its resources and its people were exploited deliberately by Europe, and this shifted the continent's economic development while enriching Europe. And this book has a lot of history. It is so well done, and I love that it is done from a Marxist approach. I absolutely enjoyed reading this book. It's a book that I think everyone should read, and we should read it over and over. And this is my nonfiction pick. The second book that I have that I would recommend is Black Girl Call Home, which is a collection of poems by Jasmine Mans. So this is poetry. And to me, this feels like a Bible for every Black girl. Jasmine Mans is queer, so she writes this book from a Black queer woman perspective, dark-skinned perspective. And in it, she goes into so much. She talks about our hair, our bodies, what is expected of us, colorism, our skin, all those medical procedures that were done without Black women's permission or without their consent. She talks about relationship, relationship with men, with our mothers, with our children, with our sisters, with ourselves. This book is, I would highly, highly recommend it. It's a book that I would love to read every single year, especially in February because of Black History Month, but in March because of Women's History Month. So this is one that I would highly, highly recommend. The second question is, what Black YouTuber would you recommend watching and why? I have a list, so I hope I won't butcher any of these names. Please forgive me. That was not my intention. So number one, I would recommend Aisha. Her channel is called That Other Nigerian Girl. I will put all the channels below in the description box so you can have a look at their channel. If you feel like they resonate with you, please give them a follow. So Aisha is Nigerian. I love watching Aisha's videos and also her recommendations because she's African. She reads a lot of African literature. She's also a feminist, so her book recommendations have a feminist touch to them. Next is Shilanda of Library Without Borders. I love her book recommendations because she loves reading books that deal with the history of Black people in the US. And of course, she lives in Canada, so she gives it another point of view. And on top of that, she's from Congo, so that just is like a cherry on top. I also enjoy watching Scotty Sherry Reads, who I got this video idea from. I love her book recommendations, always a nice mixture. Next is Ariana Shai, and I love her recommendations because she also talks about a lot of Black authors, and it's also very classic books that I've never heard of. So I love her book recommendations. Of course, Shelby and the Book Club. I think every one of us who watches Black YouTubers has watched a video from Shelby. Next is Aliyah of Bookmarked by Aliyah. I love watching her vlogs. I rarely do vlogs, but when I watch her vlogs, I'm usually just like, this is so inspiring. I enjoy watching her vlogs. And next is And Then They Were Readers. I love the banter between the two of them, and they have amazing book recommendations too. Books Are My Social Life, who is a Trinidadian. He's from the Caribbean, and so he gives this Caribbean touch to book recommendations. Brown Girl Reading, she lives in France, so it's always nice to see book recommendations from someone who looks like me and who also lives in Europe. Chocolate Covered Pages always has an updated list of new releases, which is always something that we need. And of course, she reads books by Black authors. Next is Comfy Cozy Up. I love her book recommendations too. She goes really deep into books. And also I love that she sews because I also sew. So that's also something I enjoy about watching her videos. Next is Jaded Reads. I believe she's called Diamond. I love her videos and recommendations because she does like a whole video talking about one single book. It's very immersive. I love how she goes really, really deep into her books. And last but not least is Nicole Snook. I believe she's in the UK. So when she recommends books, those are books that I also know are available because, Europe. And her videos are very fun to watch. She also does vlogs, which are very entertaining. Those are the Black BookTubers that I would recommend you to watch. Question 3 is, what's your favorite book written by a Black author from an African country? I have, I think, 4 books. So first is Blessings by Chukwuebuka Ibe. He's a Nigerian author. And this book is a coming of age story about a young man who is discovering his queerness, but also growing up in a country and in a family where this is something that is out of, like, it's not something that is even to be discussed. So it's about him finding himself, but also finding his community, building a new community in a world that does not even imagine that he exists or accepts that he exists. I really, really enjoyed reading this. Another book that I would recommend is Africa is Not a Country, Breaking Stereotypes of Modern Africa by Dipo Faloyin. This book is like a roadmap to explain, or not even to explain, but just to expand someone's views about Africa. Because visiting one African country or meeting one African does not mean that you now have information about Africa. So he goes not deep, but he touches on so many things. So it's like for someone who is a beginner, this is a perfect. Another book that I would recommend by an African author is So Long a Letter by Miriam Ba. This is really small. It was originally written in French and translated by Modupe Bode Thomas, because we really need to make sure that we shout out the translators because they do an amazing job. And this is a really old book, African literature classic, and it's about a friendship between two women and their lives. They live two different lives, so it's in the form of a letter, in actually letters between two friends. So one is telling the other about how her life is, but it goes much deeper into that, talks about just how it is to be a woman living in a patriarchal world, but also having your own agency. It's a really fascinating, small but very fascinating book, and I think it's close to my heart because I read it when I went to Senegal for my 40th birthday. Next is Efuru by Flora Nwapa, and this is also part of the African Writers series. And Flora Nwapa, I believe, was the first African woman to be published, I think, because the book was published in 1966, so it's a classic. And I love this book because Efuru is a woman who, despite doing everything that patriarchy tells her a woman should do in order to be valued, like how you are valued or your worth, she tries all that, and in the end it doesn't work. So she decides to live a life according to her own rules, and I loved the portrayal of that in the 1960s. And then the last book that I would recommend by a Black author from an African country is Unbowed, One Woman's Story by Professor Wangari Maathai. I'm Kenyan, so I had to shout out a book by a Kenyan author. And Wangari Maathai was the first woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And she was not just an environmentalist. She was a fighter for human rights. She was a feminist. She was an educationist. She founded the Green Belt movement. Like, an amazing woman, and this book just tells us of her story. She told her story. Unfortunately, she's not here, but her words will always be with us. Question 4 is, what's your favorite Black classic? So for these, I have 2, and they are, there is Confusion by Jessie Redmond Fawcett. I recently just read this. I did a buddy read with a friend, and we actually decided to read it because we read about Jessie Redmond in another book, The Harlem Rhapsody by Christopher Murray. Harlem Rhapsody. So Harlem Rhapsody was historical fiction, and it was the character who was talked about is Jessie Redmond Fawcett. And then we discovered that she was named by Langston Hughes as the midwife of Black literature during the Harlem Renaissance. And that's why we got this. And this is the book that she wrote, one of the books that she wrote. An amazing book about a Black middle-class family living in New York and their history and their lives and what they faced and the reality of life and just the joy. Like a story that most people back then could not relate to because they were not struggling. They had their normal struggles, but of course they had to struggle with racism and that, but they led a normal life. They had activities, they had hobbies. It's a really, really good book. Definitely highly recommended. The other classic book that I would recommend is, and it works also for Valentine's Day or the month of love, is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. And I think this was published in 1937. I'm not so sure when There's Confusion was published. I'll put it somewhere. But this was published in 1937. I read this last year and fell in love with it. A woman who lived life on her own terms, despite everything. She followed love. She knew what she wanted and she looked for love. Sometimes it did not go according to her plans, but she kept on. She never regretted it, and she was like, if you don't go and live your life out there, then what story will you tell? I absolutely loved this. Then the next question is, what movie or book to movie or documentary would you recommend watching during Black History Month? And to that, I would say Green Days by the River by Michael Anthony. And Michael Anthony is a Trinidadian author, so it's by a Caribbean author, and it is based in Trinidad. I think it was written back in the 1950s. In this book, we follow Shell, a young boy. He's 15, and his family has just moved to this rural village. And then he befriends this Indian man who owns a plantation. So he starts working for this man. And of course, this man has a young daughter who is mixed of Black and Indian descent. And this girl is interested in Shell, but also Shell also meets another girl. So he's caught in between the two girls. But there's just more to this book than a coming of age story of a young man. There is a little bit of romance, but the book also addresses classism, addresses poverty, addresses country that is on the verge of independence, but the citizens are still torn between the have and have not, and the people who own land and the people who work on these plantations. And of course, there's the race question, because there are Indians and there are also the Black descendants who both exist in this country. I absolutely love this book. I have not actually read the book, but I watched the movie coincidentally this week during the Black History Month. So I'm going to now read the book after watching the movie. This book has been taught in different continents, in Britain, in Trinidad, and I just also heard that it's been taught in Jamaica in school. So it's critically acclaimed, but it also did well commercially. So I'm definitely going to read that, and I would definitely recommend it. Next is what's on your TBR for Black History Month. So February it started out very well because I read 2 books at the beginning of February, and then I just fell into a reading slump, and I am still in it, and I'm hoping to get out of it. But I'm not rushing. When it's over, it's over. So the books that I have on my TBR definitely are, I'm prioritizing book club reads. So I have this, which is The Pala Wife by Foluso Agbaje. So this is set in Lagos in 1939, during the time when the World War II started, and it sent shockwaves in the whole world. And now, of course, in Nigeria, it's about this woman who is forced to put aside her dreams and become the third wife to this man. So it follows her story of survival and just the movement that she built unknowingly in Nigeria. So looking forward to reading this. The other book that I definitely have to read is Sula by Toni Morrison. I host a book club, so this is one of the books that we are reading in February. And in another book club that I'm in, a digital one, this is also the book that we are reading. We all know Sula, it's a classic, so I'm looking forward to reading this. The other book that I'm looking forward to reading, which I have to read, is Cast Daughters by Oyinkan Braithwaite, and this is also for a book club, and it's by a Nigerian author. And the last book that I hope to read this month is Sweet Heat by Bolu Babalola. I wanted to read this for Valentine's, but I have not even started, but I still want to read it. It's a romance, second chance romance book. I read the first book and I loved it, so looking forward to meeting Kiki and Malachi again in this book. And then the last question is, which new releases by Black authors are you looking forward to this year? So I have a list, and these are mostly books by Black authors based in the US. And I'm not so sure that I will get to read them because I'm doing a lot by year, especially for books. So I'm not rushing to buy new books. So I will probably have to wait until they come to my local library, I live in Germany. They can come this year or next year. I'm not so sure. Or maybe if I get them on Audible, but they are not like priorities. So the books that I will probably be reading that have been released this year, new releases, will probably just be gifts because I cannot afford to. So I have 4. Thank God that I have amazing friends and the gifts are already coming in. So the first one is a collection of poems, Anchored Stitches by Rutendo Shikaya. And I met Rutendo when we went to Lagos for the Ake Books and Art Festival. We were coincidentally living in the same hotel, and she told us that she's an author and this is her debut collection of poems. I'm really, really looking forward to reading this because I know her personally and it just feels nice. She's Zimbabwean, so in this powerful debut, she gathers the textures of Zimbabwean life, its endurance, grief, and quiet triumphs into a lyrical tapestry of voices that confront loss, labor, and longing. Sounds really amazing. So I'm looking forward to reading this. These 3 books were sent to me by a friend, by Bukola, all the way from the UK. And the first one is Black Ghost, A Journey into the Lives of Africans in China by No Sarowiwa. And I believe it's nonfiction. So in this book, the author goes in search of China's Black Ghost, African economic migrants in the People's Republic who live in clustered communities and are key to the trade between the continents. So looking forward to reading this. And this is Grace by Chika Unigwe. And I believe this book, I love the cover, explores motherhood relationships between a girl and her mother. So mother-daughter relationship. I love such stories, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. If I would add to the list of books by Black authors based in the US, I have, if I will ever get them, The 7 Daughters of Dupree by Nikesha Ellis Williams, Score by Kennedy Ryan, Kin by Tayari Jones, and of course, I think one last book by Sadika Johnson, which is a historical fiction that I would also love to read. But like I said, it's not a must. I'll just read these first, what I have first, and what is available at my library. So very long video. I hope that I inspired you to pick up a new book, and especially books by African authors as we celebrate our Blackness in whichever location we are based in. I live in Hamburg, and February is always an important month for us because one day we hope that we don't need this, that we will be celebrated all year round. I try to do that here on my channel. I try to do that every single day. But of course, I appreciate this month and I am doing my most. I am outside. I'm going for talks. I'm going for readings. I'm going for movies. I am going for art exhibitions. Yes, I am outside in February and I hope that you are too. And hopefully I will be reading too when I get out of this reading slump. So thank you so much for watching. Hope that you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comment section which books you're reading in February, how you're celebrating Black History Month. I will leave you with a video here and here if you're interested in just finding more recommendations, especially by Black and African authors. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Bye.